Alright, welcome aboard the Untitled Tram. If you can hear my voice, raise your hand. Very good. If this volume is too loud for anyone, can you raise your hand? Alright, how about too quiet? If it's just right, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Now go ahead and gently nudge your doors on both the left and the right hand side, making sure those doors are properly latched closed. You want to make sure you're not leaning against or sitting on top of the doors. They're only latched. They are not locked. They are not going to support your little ones either. So make sure those little ones aren't dangling on those doors. Now my name is Ebony. I'm going to be your tour guide and also your driver. Before we get into Africa, let's go over some safety. So go ahead and take a look up at the ceiling so that you can find the yellow emergency strips. Now these strips are there to get my attention in the case of a medical emergency. Now you want to be sure to not press the strips if you grab something out of the tram, like a park map, sunglasses, cell phones. These are all very important items, but they're not an emergency. Just remember where you drop them and we'll send someone else at a later time to get those items. Now those of you that are in the first tram with me, you don't have emergency strips. So you're going to give me a wave in my rearview mirror and tap on the glass that is right behind me, and I will be able to assist you. And lastly, please be sure to stay seated while the tram is in motion. Once we come to a stop, I see it's okay. You can stand up, take pictures. But once we start moving again, please be sure to take your seats once again. Now look out to the left. You're looking into our East African habitat, and if you kind of look backwards, you'll see our watchtowers of Africa. Watchtowers of Africa are the tallest land mammals in the world, the giraffe species. Now towards the front of the tram, we have some of our southern white rhinos. As we pull closer, I'll try to see who this is. Earlier it was Kianka. Okay, this is just one of the female. I don't know who she is, but if you look on the grassy hillside, we have two more of our female southern white rhinos. Now we'll get another view of East Africa once we're headed back into the tram station, but go ahead and take a look over on the right. You're looking into the delta. We have our flamboyant flamingo. Always going to be the flamboyant. They use that for safety in numbers. Now, flamingo are the oxygenators of the environment because when they shuffle their feet in the mud to stir that up so that they can filter out the microorganisms that they will consume, that is also going to help keep the water oxygenated, which is going to make sure that life is able to be sustained in the body of water. Now, being an oxygenator makes the flamingo a keystone species, or a species that if they were to be pushed to extinction, it would have a huge impact on the environment, and that is what we're going to focus on today, learning about these keystone species, how they're helping themselves, which is going to help the environment thrive as well. Now, thank you for visiting the San Diego Zoo Safari Park today. Whether you visit us here at the park or down at the San Diego Zoo, you are helping support one of the two front doors that makes up the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. Now, one of the ways that we are able to create this world is through our conservation work. And we have 8 different hubs located on 6 different continents, which allows us to focus on a specific project within a specific region. And we're going to spend a little time discussing a few of these conservation hubs. Now, over on the right, we have the Nikita Khan Rhino Rescue Center. We've got some of our female southern white rhino up close, and if you look at the far back corner, you'll see some more of our female southern white rhino. Now this is where we're actively working towards conserving the most critically endangered rhino species, which is the northern white rhino. There's only 2 northern white rhinos left in the entire world, and both of them are female. Now we believe a surrogacy program will be able to help the northern white rhinos. And these female that you see here, they are going to be those surrogate mothers. Now we have the genetic material from 12 different northern white rhinos, and we are going to create a northern white rhino embryo, take that embryo and artificially impregnate these girls. Now we are hoping that this will result in the birth of a full-blooded northern white rhino baby. Now raise your hands if this sounds amazing and you want to learn more. I know, right? Now I wish I had time to tell you more, but I only have 30 minutes with you. So I can give you some resources. San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance.org. That is a great way to learn about our 8 different conservation hubs. Also following us on social media. We post informative information as well as great videos and photos of the different species that are in our care. Now looking out to the left, you're looking into our South Savannah habitat. We have about 65 acres of land in just this habitat alone. Now in our African field habitats, we have 250 acres. And we'll be traveling around about 200 of those today. Now our South Savannah habitat represents our Savannah hub of conservation. And Savannah is what is known as a biodiversity hotspot. Now a biodiversity hotspot is an ecosystem where multiple species of plants and animals are able to be sustained. But unfortunately, due to human encroachment, like habitat destruction, climate change, our biodiversity hotspots are being pushed to extinction. Now, if we were to lose all of our biodiversity hotspots, the survival of the planet in which we are all thriving on will no longer be able to exist. And that is why it's beneficial to have zoological facilities, oceanariums, and aquariums, because it allows us to care for the building blocks that is helping keep the planet stable. I want you to start looking over on the right-hand side, and I want you to raise your hands when you see the dazzle. It's great. I love it. And raise your hands if you're not raising your hand because you don't know if you see the dazzle because you don't really know what that is. Now a dazzle is what you call a herd of zebra. We've got our Giraffe zebra along the fence line. Now Giraffe zebra are the tallest of the zebra species that stand at about 4 to 5 feet in length. Or in height. And then also if you look at those ears, you might be able to see that they have very round ears. Only the Giraffe zebras have those. Now, zebra are keystone species just like the flamingo. Now, the flamingo are the oxygenators. Now, the zebra are like a lawnmower. Now, the zebra are going to be eating grass, but they don't eat the entire blade of grass. They eat the top tough portion of the grass. Now, when they remove this part of the grass, guess what? They make it more edible for other animals like the antelope species, which are the main food source for the carnivores. Now there are less than 3,000 Giraffe zebras left out in Kenya and Ethiopia. That's due to habitat destruction, human development. And we need to make sure that we keep the lawnmowers of the environment. And we also have our bird marsh. We have white birds with the black head and tail feathers, and those are called the sacred Ibis. So they get their names because they were a sacred species during the time of the Egyptians. Now I want you to look up above those sacred ibis. You're looking towards the fence line, and you're looking for a dark-colored bird. Raise your hands if you see the lappet face of vulture. It's very dark-colored with a very pink-colored head. Raise your hands if you see it. Very good. Now the vultures, another keystone species. Now we've seen the oxygenators, the lawnmowers. Now we have the sanitary workers. Vultures are scavengers, so they do not hunt for live prey. They look for prey that has already been killed. Now when they eat these leftover carcasses, and they consume 70%, they are removing disease and bacteria from the land and the waterways. Now these carcasses can have diseases like anthrax, E. coli, the Ebola virus, even tuberculosis, and vultures have a natural immunity to these diseases. Now, I don't know about you, but cleanliness is kind of high up on my things that I just can't do without. And the fact that we have 23 species of vultures that are voluntarily cleaning up the environment, that's a big reason why we need to make sure that we're conserving the 23, and especially because over half of the 23 are already listed as endangered. Now take a look at our very stunning antelope. These are called the sovereign gazelle, and yes, I did call them antelope and also gazelle. And that's because all gazelle are antelope, but not all antelope are gazelle. Now these somerings, beautiful sandy colored coat to help them blend in with their desert environment. They've adapted themselves to have longer legs and a neck so that they're able to reach higher resources. They also have the ability to stand on their rear legs, so they've got rotating hips, which is going to make them even taller to reach those higher resources. Now, living in a desert, you're competing a lot for your resources. So they have the black eye lines, which is called threat lines, used for threatening and intimidating behavior. Now, another sign for checking to see if there's going to be competition is looking for headgear. So we have our sable antelope on the left, lots of horns on their heads. And they are part of the 2/3 of antelopes where both the male and the female have the horns. Now that means they are going to be participating in what is called a sparring match. And sparring is a horn wrestling match or an arm wrestling match for you and I. Now if only the males were to have horns in environments where resources were scarce, that wouldn't be a very fair competition for the female, because not only are the female competing for themselves, but they also have to compete for their offspring. Now, the San Diego Zoo Safari Park was founded by Dr. Charles Schroeder. And he started out at the San Diego Zoo, which is our sister site, back in the 30s as a veterinarian. He also spent time at the Bronx Zoo in the 40s. He came back to the San Diego Zoo in the 1950s, where he served as the director from 1954 to 1972. Now, he was often heard saying, "I don't like bars, and I don't like to see wildlife behind bars and barriers," because he felt it wasn't natural. And that is what inspired Dr. Charles Schroeder in wanting to develop a breeding facility for the San Diego Zoo. A breeding facility, that is our original purpose. Now Gabe's here with On Ready because we've got a closer view of our watchtowers of Africa, and it looks like they might be interested in something that's going on over on the right-hand side. Now, giraffe are the tallest land mammals in the world, standing anywhere from 14 to 18 feet in height, and that is equivalent to roughly a 2-story home. Now, just like the Flamingos Gazelle, they have adapted themselves to have longer, taller features to be able to get them high up into those trees. And there's not a lot of competition for them for food. Now, the giraffe are going to be spending 18 hours out of the day browsing for food, which is basically landscaping the environment. Look at the trees that are in the South Savannah habitat. They look a little scarce. Well, that one that doesn't have leaves, that's not because of the giraffe, that's just because of the time of year. But the trees are not going to look as full as in other areas. Now, the giraffe are the landscapers controlling the overgrowth, and they're also the watchtowers of Africa, because from where a giraffe is standing, they're able to see 2 miles away. So other animals, like the antelope or the Cape buffalo, they don't have they have a civil relationship, and the animals will purposely place themselves near those giraffes and use them as a watchtower, because if the giraffe starts running, they're going to run as well, because they know that the giraffe has seen what they have not yet seen. Now, the giraffes have an alarm system for themselves, and as well as the other animals, and that is the tick bird. The tick bird is going to land on the animals and remove the ticks, which is going to help the animals stay healthy. And that is the tick bird's main source of resources, of food. Now, when these tick birds get scared, they're going to fly away, and then guess what? That is going to alert the other animals that danger may be afoot, and so they're going to be more aware. Now, over on the right, we have our very beautiful Somali wild ass, kind of a fitting photo opportunity there. Now, the Somali wild ass are a critically endangered species with less than 200 of them left out in the wild, and that is due to civil unrest, the lots of war, and their home country of Somalia. Now, we are one of the few facilities in North America that is able to provide the Somali wild ass with a safe haven, which is essentially a second chance at life, not only for the Somalis, but also many of our other different species within our facility as well. Now, our original purpose is a breeding facility, and that is what we continue to focus on. And the breeding is going to help raise the populations of our different species of animals and also plant life. And that way we can increase the population, and also in the future we potentially will be able to release the species back into those stable native environments. Now we are exiting out of our South Savannah habitat and entering into Central Africa. And down on the left you'll see our 2 East African black rhinos, as well as our roan antelope. Now we have 1 male, 1 female, and they're a couple. Now naturally black rhinos are a solitary species, and the only time you really find them with the companionship of other black rhinos is when they're involved with courtship or when it is a mom with her offspring. Now we're keeping our fingers crossed that Ari and Kendi will start reproducing. There are less than 5,000 black rhinos left out in the wild, and that is due to poaching for the horn on the front of their faces. Now this poaching is a senseless killing because rhino horn does not have magical or medicinal purposes. Rhino horn is made from the same keratin that our own hair and nails are made of, as well as feathers, scales, and the covering on the antelope's horns. Now the antelope's horns are solid bone, whereas the rhino horns is very soft in the middle. And that's why it's beneficial to have zoological facilities, because we are able to provide education to our guests. Now over on the right we have our African forest, and lying down on the ground are our female roan antelope. Now if you notice that they are lying down in a circular formation, they have done that on purpose. That is called an alert circle, and it allows one individual to lie in every single direction so that they're able to look out for the predators. If a predator knows they have been seen by their prey, they're not going to waste their time nor their energy to go after the prey, because more than likely the prey will be able to get away. Now on the island we have some of our pink-backed pelicans. And if you look over on the left-hand side, I want you to raise your hands if you see those watchtowers of Africa. Do you see the giraffe? Raise your hand. Very good. Now go ahead and give those giraffe a great big wave. Don't be shy. Remember, they can see 2 miles away, so they see you not waving. That's rude. There you go. Now from left to right, we have about 100 acres of land, and we can pick up the San Diego Zoo and place it in just this area alone. We can place the San Diego Zoo within our facility about 10 times because we have 1,800 acres in our facility. Now Dr. Charles Schroeder, the founder, was hoping by providing the animals with these very spacious, lifelike environments, he would encourage the animals to breed more because they would feel more comfortable. And that would create what are called self-sustaining breeding herds, and we could pull from these herds instead of pulling from the wild. Because removing animals from their native habitats is one of the reasons they were being pushed to extinction, and Dr. Charles Schroeder wanted to reduce that impact. Now take a look, we've got our bachelor herd of Grevy zebras. Now I want you to squint your eyes as you look at the zebra. Squint your eyes. I want you to look at the striping. I want you to raise your hands if you see the striping blurring together. Squint your eyes as you look at the stripes. Raise your hands if you see the blurring of those lines. No one sees it? No one? Okay, I'm going to keep on. Raise your hands if you see it. Very good. Now that is what the predators see when they look into the dazzle. The black and white striping blurs together, and that makes the zebra look like a large mass of an animal opposed to individuals. That's called disruptive coloration. Now this is going to give those zebras safety in number, just like the greater flamingo in their flamboyance. Now not only is this going to help the zebras stay safe, but it also is going to help them stay healthy, because the tsetse fly cannot land on those stripes, and that's going to help prevent the spread of tsetse fever. Now, Dr. Charles Schroeder drove up to the San Pasquale Valley back in the 60s and personally mapped out our 1,800 acres. He also dedicated 1,000 acres of land to just the development of the park. And the other 800 he set aside as a natural preserve. And that creates a border all around our facility. Now go ahead and take a look over on the left-hand side. You're looking at the hillside. And you'll notice that there's an area fenced off and there's no vegetation in that area. Now raise your hands if you've been visiting the safari park way back when we had our monorail. Okay. Those of you that raised your hands, do you remember on the monorail when you would go by this hillside, they would tell you to look for the sheep that are up there? Raise your hands if you remember that. Yeah, so guess what? They're still up there. They're just really hard to see now. But the reason why that hillside is stripped like that is because you had one species of animal that overused the environment and stripped all the vegetation out. Now that is an example of why we have to have the different species existing in an environment, because every species of animal is going to use the environment in a different way. The animals are going to use their territorial space. They're going to move to another space, which is going to allow the environment to regroup itself, regrow. Now also keep looking over there because you'll see lots of undeveloped land. That is part of our land, and that is covered in a habitat called California coastal sage shrub. California coastal sage shrub is the second most endangered habitat found in the continental United States, with less than 15% of the habitat left, and that is due to habitat destruction, which is primarily due to housing development. Now go ahead and take a look over on the right-hand side. We saw a beautiful African coral tree with the red-orange flowers. Look on the right. Notice how round this tree is. Very full with branches. Branches almost down to the ground. Now take a look on the left and raise your hands when you see the same species of tree. Okay, on the left, that is not affecting the tree on the right. The giraffe species, that's what's going on. Now, the tree on the right is an example of a tree that hasn't been landscaped. This is what the Savannah would look like, overgrown. The tree on the left is why we need to keep our giraffe species. Now, the tree on the left, it looks like it's given a lot of itself. Lots of those branches have been torn away. But this tree is providing shade and shelter for other animals. It's got the flowers, so it's helping the pollinators. Is this tree also providing oxygen for everyone? It is. Is this tree still surviving even though it's given so much of itself? Yes, it is. And guess what? That tree is not just giving, it is also receiving. Because guess what? That tree has seeds, and it needs animals to disperse those seeds, to fertilize the seeds, and to also plant those seeds. The species is still thriving. Now take a look up on the right-hand side again. We've got our sweet thorn trees. Don't touch it because it's only sweet when it has flowers. It smells great. But this tree is covered in thorns. And guess what? It's protecting itself. It's limiting the amount of browsing that can take place on that tree. Now is this tree still providing for others? It's still shade and shelter. It's still creating oxygen as well, but it's protecting itself. And that is okay. Now the plants and the animals have learned how to coexist with each other for millions and millions of years. And we as humans, we need to learn how to coexist with the plants and the animals and each other so that we can continue existing as well. Now on the left we have the female common eland, which are the second largest antelope in the world. They come in at about 1,800 pounds. These females have 3-foot long horns compared to the males that only have 2-foot long horns. Now why do the males have the smaller horns and the female the longer ones? Well, the female is the caretakers of the babies. The female need the longer set of horns to allow them to reach higher into the trees, to break those branches and bring that food down to their offspring. You can think of the longer set of horns as an assistance program for a single parent. It allows them to provide better for those offspring. Now, it took the founder 9 years and 5 votes from the Board of Trustees to get the approval for the park. That approval happened in 1969, and our park doors officially opened May 10th, 1972. So we have been open for 50 years. We'll be celebrating that milestone this coming up May, and I do want to thank all of you for visiting our facility and helping us reach this milestone. Now, when you make a choice to visit one of the 2 front doors that makes up the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, when you purchase admission tickets or memberships, that is a donation when you first walk through the door. When you purchase food, souvenirs, or any of our other activities, that is also a donation because we are not for profit. So what you spend here makes its way back into our facility, and what you experience is a result of these donations. So thank you for the support, helping us create this world where all life thrives, which makes you an ally for wildlife. Now raise your hands if this is your first visit. Oh, well, welcome. Glad you made it out today. It's a perfect day. We're not busy, and the weather's not too hot, it's not too cold. It is wonderful. Now we have made our way back into East Africa. We're going to go ahead and take a look on the right. We've got our southern white rhino, and a group they're called a crash, and these are all female. Now you'll notice that the rhino is in our emblem for the Wildlife Alliance, and the animals that are in those emblems play a special part in our history. Now the southern white rhinos, we were the first facility to learn how to breed them, and yes, you heard correctly, we had to learn how to breed them. Now way back in 1972, we were gifted 20 southern white rhinos, and they were immature male and female. Now at the time, we only had 1 male, 1 female down at the zoo, and they lived together for 9 years and never reproduced. So we took the male, brought him up to the safari park, and very quickly he started presenting those breeding behaviors, and 18 months later, which is a gestational period for the rhino, we had babies being born. Now what we ended up finding out by accident is that southern white rhino are social. The female needs the companionship of other female to hormonally trigger them into their estrous cycle. If the female don't have enough female companionship, they're not going to go in that estrous cycle because they do not want to have babies on their own. They want to have the companionship of other female so they can have safety and strength in number. We spread this information to other facilities, and together we raised the population of the southern white rhinos from 200 into the 1,000.
You're missing it.
Now take a look, that is one of our, is that the little girl? That is our 4-week-old East African giraffe.
See? Grandma's trying to help you. Look what you're making.
I think so.
The giraffe, look.
We have a 4-week-old and also a 7-month-old. I think the little girl there is the smallest one, that's not her standing up. But every single baby that we have born here at the park is a symbol of hope that is going to make sure that these species continue to thrive. Now it's not easy being a baby giraffe out in the wild. 50 to 70% do not make it to their first birthday. Poaching, habitat destruction, malnutrition, competition with domesticated livestock are all issues that are affecting these animals. We have cameras set up in Kenya that are taking photos, and the photos are being uploaded to wildwatchkenya.org, and you can take a look at these photos by visiting that site, and you can also help do research by identifying what you see in the photos, wildwatchkenya.org. And by taking a look at those photos and helping with the research, not only are you an ally for wildlife, but you can also be a citizen scientist. I hope you enjoyed your trip today. I hope you enjoyed learning about the keystone species and how they're using their adaptations that they use to survive is also helping the environment with the survival. Just kind of recap, we learned about the oxygenators, which were the flamingo, the lawnmowers, which are the zebras, the sanitary workers are the vultures, the giraffe are the alert towers, as well as the landscapers, elephants are the bulldozers, lots of different keystone species. Now, they're helping the environment thrive, but guess what? That is also going to help us thrive as well. Now, again, we wouldn't have been able to keep our doors open for as long as we have, as it hasn't been for your support. And that is how we have this alliance. We are in this together. And I hope you continue your day here at the safari park. And when you leave our facility, you can continue making good choices that isn't going to only affect your life, but also others' lives as well. So making sure that you're recycling different items in your home, even your electronics. In your cell phones, there are metals that we can reuse instead of going out into the African forest, which is going to affect our gorilla species, our lowland gorillas. Now, they are being affected by the habitat destruction as well as being poached for the bushmeat. And also, even being so close to humans, they're catching the same diseases that we have since we are so closely related. Also, if you can make a choice to carpool, to use less vehicles, if you can take a walk, ride a bike, those are all going to be helpful. Walking, riding a bike is going to be healthy for yourself. But this is going to reduce your carbon emissions, which is going to be affecting the greenhouse effect, which is going to have an effect on how quickly our polar ice caps are melting, which is going to affect our polar bears and penguins. Also, make sure you're using sustainable items such as food and cleaning supplies, also materials that you use to remodel your home. Now, if you don't know if these items are coming from a sustainable source, you can always download an app that can help you check for sustainability. But also, you can check the labels. If you see shade-grown coffee, shade-grown tea, that is meaning that the trees were not chopped down to grow these items, which is going to help those forests. So thank you so much. My name is Ebony. I was your guide, your driver. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to come right up to the front desk. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.